Hello and welcome everyone to Mindful Conversations. I'm your host, Tanya Otterstein-Liehs, and with me today I have Jen, and I'm going to let her tell you all about it. But Jen has these really powerful messages that I need to have you hear about, that mindset, about self-love and self-care, and really making yourself a priority. So, Jen, welcome to the show. I'm really excited about
Hi.
our conversation today.
Yes, I'm looking forward. It's nice to meet you,
Yeah.
everybody. My name is Jen. I'm a love and relationship coach. And in the introduction, I really spend a lot of my work in empowering women to really take charge of their dreams, take charge of their power, and reconnect to really what's possible for them instead of seeking that outside of ourselves or feeling like it's meant for everybody else, but not for us, which I see so often. And to instead really find that and reconnect to it and create a roadmap to make it happen.
Jen, and I like, Jen, how you mentioned, about that self-love and connecting with your inner self. I'm hearing that message. And do you find, being a relationship coach, do you find a lot of, and I'm going to address women here because, that is our audience. Do you find that a lot of women, they forget to think about who they are and they forget to look at themselves and they tend to say, okay, what do I need to do or how do I need to become to make this person happy or to have them like me who I am? Do you come across that a lot of times in your
Yes,
conversations?
confidence and love are so interconnected. So if we put someone ahead of us or above us, or if we find ourselves going into childhood patterns, which often as women we're taught to, not say no and to not ruffle feathers or make people feel uncomfortable. And so, what often can happen in relationships is we start to think about what the other person may need versus what we need and honoring that. And so we lose that natural connection for our partner, or whether it be in dating or relationships, to truly see that version of us that the people who know us love, our friends, our family, and just the ability to be our true selves and to operate very naturally and from our side of the yard, being in our own lane rather than trying to think about what he might need, and him disconnecting and not really being able to feel safe around us because we're wearing a mask essentially, and he can't find that real version. And as a result, it becomes a vicious cycle that women can often get caught in.
Yeah, you really, when I heard vicious cycle, it's so true, right? Oftentimes, we as women forget those deep seated feelings, perhaps from past relationships, or as you mentioned, childhood memories. And we tend to not realize that ends up shaping us, who we are, who we look for in a partner, a spouse for life, and sometimes even in friendships. And I'm really happy that you brought that up. And do you find too, as well, Jen, that to find that pain, we need to really do that deep soul searching and realize that, okay, are we seeing a pattern? Am I seeing a pattern? And do you find too that when you speak with women and you ask them, like, what is that deep seated why you're feeling the way you do? Like, is that a question that you approach women about when there's, talking to you about as a relationship coach?
Absolutely. But what often can happen is we've gotten so good at suppressing our emotions that we don't know what it is we're feeling or why it is we're feeling that way. Because as women, we're constantly suppressing emotions. I mean, you can't just start crying at work every time you feel something. So you stuff it down, and then life gets busy. You don't hold space to feel it and explore it and be curious about it later, really holding that space for yourself. And so what happens as a result is you lose that connection, and you kind of know if you're feeling bad or feeling mad or sad, but it's really broad. It's harder to get in depth in terms of what am I feeling and how do I learn how to express this? And also, how do I get curious enough to really go deep and see what I'm reacting to? And so, if we get to the root of where this narrative started or where some of these belief systems began, it's then that you can start really tapping into that subconscious, belief that's taken over that perhaps served you when you were a kid, but you find that you're carrying it into all of your adult relationships, and it's definitely not serving you any longer. And so it comes down to really reprogramming that, learning new beliefs, new ways of communication, new ways of really honoring yourself, and holding space for your needs and recognizing that your needs are valid, and that doesn't make you needy for having desires, for having wants, and to be able to communicate it clearly and vulnerably.
Yeah, that's, so important. There's certain words that really came out and struck me when you talked about that, and this, about that honoring who you are, right? It's something as women that we often feel we're not worthy enough to honor who we are. And it's something I talk about all the time too. And it's something I see you talk about all the time as well, Jen, is honoring who you are, listening to your heart, listening to your head, listening to your intuition that is so strong that often we silence it and then we say, oh, why didn't I listen to myself, right? So yeah, I mean, we have so much honor for other people, but yet do we honor ourselves, especially as women? And do you find too that, Jen, that often, as moms, I'm going to be specific here, that we honor everybody around us, we validate our kids, we validate our spouse, but yet do we honor ourselves as a person? Yes, we're a mom, yes, we're a wife, yes, we're a partner, but how about honoring me, who I am? And, that's something I come across a lot when I speak with potential clients and clients one-on-one, as well as in other podcasts. And do you find as well, Jen, in your circle of people, you work with, or even in conversations, you hear other people that they forget to honor who they are and honor what they love and honor what uplifts them?
Right. I think that, it's the idea that really checking in, am I giving from an empty tank, or do I need to put some drops back in my own tank before I do something else? And really starting to bring the awareness to notice when you're giving from an empty tank, how that just becomes heavier and heavier baggage on your back, and it leads to guilt, resentment, getting short with people, lashing out, more reaction. And then you feel bad about that and you get caught in the circular motion of that, versus putting some drops back in your tank, being able to say no, or I can't, or I first need to, and then take that space for yourself, and then responding from a space of fullness. And you will notice that those around you will be so appreciative and supportive of that, because energetically it feels so different for you and for those on the receiving end.
Yeah, and when you say, Kim, other people will feel it. It's so true, right? We give off this amazing energy we don't even feel that we're giving off, or we feel it from other people, right? And you're so right. When you start to shift your mindset and come to a place of self-love, you start to radiate that, and other people perceive it. And even your family members are like, oh, there's something different about you. And it's like, no, I've just finally discovered who I am, and I'm honoring and I'm choosing and I'm giving myself permission to do these things that I didn't do before. So that's a really good point that you brought up.
And to your point of when you do learn to take care of yourself, you will ruffle some feathers. There's going to be people used to you just doing whatever is asked of you because that's who you are. You say yes, you take on more and more and more. And so boundary setting can be uncomfortable in that sense, because people are going to want to pull you back into the old version that just did and setting boundaries and saying, no, I'm not able to do that. And really teaching people how to treat us is so important, and not being afraid of strong emotional reactions or how it's really going to be received, and just saying, that's for them to sort out. I haven't done anything wrong. As long as I'm being respectful and compassionate, I can't take responsibility for, other people's strong beliefs or strong reactions to things.
Yeah, so true. And that really rolls in well with COVID. I mean, well into a year of this, a little bit more, and there's still people struggling, right? And they felt they were moving ahead, but now it's almost like they're taking two steps back. They were starting to discover who they are, and it's like, whoa, I need to make time for myself. But now they're getting back into the old habits, and I think a lot of that has to be with, or do with, I got out of my comfort zone. I didn't like how I felt because it was new and I hadn't felt like that forever. And they stepped back, right? So what's something, Jen, that you've been doing during COVID that's really helped you to stay on this positive journey and keep a positive mindset and make yourself important and honor who you are? What's a piece of advice that you can share with other women out there?
Just, I think that the most powerful thing for me to really ground myself is to have, a ritual practice, something I'm doing every day that is giving myself, like I said earlier, the analogy of putting drops back in my tank, filling my heart and soul up, just giving me permission to just be. So whether that be movement, whether that be getting outdoors for a walk, just something that's not goal oriented, something that is just for me, giving myself my full attention and presence to give to myself. And so that for me often looks like getting outdoors, taking, a luxurious bubble bath, having a cup of tea and reading a good book in silence, journaling, just giving myself that extra attention and care, where I'm saying, for 30 minutes, I am not worrying about anything. And I am giving this practice my full attention, and I'm savoring it. And then I notice that when I'm done, I do have energy. I can move through things differently in a more deliberate, aligned way. And it really is something that I believe has to be cultivated daily. Otherwise, we go back to the old habit that's deeply etched in our brain, and we have to create this really strong intention to make this a daily practice, because it gives us so much back in return.
I love how you mentioned get outside, move your body, do something for myself. It's only half an hour because it's something I talk about all the time, every day. And I love that you mentioned it because it's so true that as much as you and I can talk about get outside, move your body, get in nature, make time for yourself, until you actually begin to experience those things yourself, that's when the switch goes off and said, wow, it was only half an hour and I feel so much better. It's like my whole thoughts did a 180, and this place of where I am now, it's almost calming and tranquil and peace. And now I can go on with my day. So I love how you brought up the same things I talk about power of nature and getting outside and making time for yourself. So I love that you share that. And you said yourself that it's my half an hour, it's my peace, it's my stillness. And that makes a huge difference. Do you find too, Jen, that, and this went through me the other day. An hour went by in the morning. I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm so unproductive. My mind is not in a good space right now. And I feel awful. I'm like, just not where I want to be. And I just said, that's it. I took our dog and we went for a half an hour walk, and I came back. It's like, yeah, this is what I needed, because I allowed myself to give my mind, my heart, what I needed. And that made such a difference. Do you ever do that as well? Do you find you come across those days too where nothing's doing, and that little half an hour you came back, it's like, whoa, now I'm ready to take on the world? Do you find that,
Oh,
you have a, yeah.
absolutely. Yes. If I'm stuck in my head, or if I'm shooting myself or starting to speak to myself in a critical way, that's always a sign for me to get out of my head and get into my body. And usually my go-tos in the morning for that are definitely getting outdoors, getting near a body of water if I have time for it, because I find water just to really, really soothe and calm my central nervous system. Or I will just go sit in my garden and read or have a cup of tea outside. Just a change of routine and a change of environment and fresh air and sunshine can absolutely just generate hope and new perspective so powerfully. And then I can go back in, and then my mind is out of the overthinking, out of the sort of negative base pattern it got caught in. And I can approach things from a really clear and just intuitive sense versus, strong arming it and trying to force it to, happen, which never goes well. And it doesn't allow creativity or really the day to flow at all.
No, you're so right. You only become more and more frustrated, right? And at the end of the day, it's just you feel
Right.
drained because of this anger and this frustration. And yeah, you got to, Jen and I can't say enough how important again it is to just make time for yourself every day. You can spend an hour, let's say, on social media, and what have you gained? But taking that half an hour instead and just even looking out a window, it's such an amazing power. So, Jen and I are encouraging everyone, get outside every day. Now, Jen, as we're coming to the end of this chat today, this interview, there's 3 questions I ask every guest. And I'm going to say they're my favorite part. I mean, I love this whole chat we've had today, but because we learn a little bit more about who you are as an individual. We focused on your expertise and focused on the things that, you talk about to help people, specifically relationships, move forward and love who they are. And if you want to shift a relationship, again, it comes to looking inside, right? But these questions are totally about you. So the first question, Jen, I want to ask is, we all have quotes that we love and we tend to live by. So what is a quote that you are absolutely inspired and you live by?
Yeah, one of my favorite quotes is from Wayne Dyer, and I don't want to butcher it, so I actually wrote it down, but it said, how people treat you is their karma and how you react to it is yours. And it's just a reminder to stay in my lane, take responsibility for how I show up. Remember that I only have control over myself at the end of the day, and I absolutely access my power by showing up in a way that's aligned with who I truly want to be.
Nice, nice. So, what I'm hearing is I need to not always focus on everybody else and their reactions, their thoughts, but I need to focus more of my energy on myself, because that's how I feel I'm a better person to myself and the people I love around me. Nice, very nice.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. What about advice? There's all these different kind of advice that we give out, and you have beautiful words of wisdom when it comes to relationship. But what's a personal piece of advice you can share with the listeners today?
I think the biggest piece of advice in my own journey, as well as many women that I support, is in don't hide, even in the most subtle of ways. You want to slow down enough to really make sure who you're showing up as is the most true and authentic version of yourself. And, somewhere along the line, most of us have learned along the way that that version was not acceptable, or that that version needed enhancing or embellishing or something extra. And to go back and to really center yourself to make sure that who you're showing up as is the absolute truth to who you are, even if it brings up difficult emotions that embarrass you, have some shame, or have some sadness attached to them, that you're just owning all of parts of yourself that's made you you. And that you're really returning to that as a way to connect and get to know others, because that will shine through and allow others to also connect and be vulnerable in your presence.
Yeah, show up for yourself. I love that, right? And how you mentioned it's the center of us, because it's true, right? It's like the earth. There's a center of the earth and it affects other things. Kind of like yourself, the center of you affects everything about you and how people perceive you and the energy you give out. So yeah, that's a really good point for, I believe, in any part of your journey along life, right? We always need to be centered, go back to our heart and listen to that. um, and it's okay to have emotions. And it's
Absolutely.
okay to feel angry and it's okay to feel sad. And we're not a superhero. And even they have struggles, right? But yeah, going back to your heart. There's a saying, go back to the heart of the ocean, I believe. And the ocean
Hmm.
is you. So very nice. Now, you cannot include family with this last question. All right. So,
Hmm.
Jen, if this was the last day of your life, what is something you would be the most grateful and thankful for?
I think I would be most grateful for just the flexibility I've created to take chances, take risks, and do things that scare me, and to not know what's on the other side, but to let my intuition guide me. And that's not something I've always been able to do, but that's something I've wanted and I've grown and I've really, really put a lot of I guess, just a lot of energy and attention on accessing my intuition. And as I've done that, I'm most proud of where that's led me and how that's shaped who I am now. So that would be a really big source of gratitude and just self discovery and happiness in my life.
Yeah, intuition and self-discovery, they work so well together, don't they? Because we as women, we tend to ignore our intuition, but it never fails us. And when we discover, when we have that self-discovery of listen to my intuition, because what do I say when I don't? I always say I should have listened to my gut feeling. I should have listened to my heart. So, and again, you're right, right? That comes through self-discovery of honoring who you are, centering, finding out who you truly, truly are, and releasing, allowing yourself to release the stresses, the emotions, the up and downs, allowing yourself to feel and show other people you're human. So
Absolutely.
thank you very much, Jen. Are there any last minute words that you want to share today?
No, it's been wonderful talking. No, nothing else additional. Thank you so much for your time.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jen. And if you want to know more about Jen, down below is all the information, how to reach out to her, where her social media is. And thank you again for listening to another episode of Mindful Conversations, where I speak with amazing women out there sharing that same message about self-empowerment, self-love, self-care, honoring who you are, giving yourself permission to make choices, what feels right to you. So until next time, remember to hit the subscribe button and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much and love who you are every day.